in the first place. It's just filling a quota.
You know, these days, what I've found to be true is that when you walk into a place and you want to get a job, you better dumb down your resume and act like you got no skills, because otherwise you ain't getting hired. I'm serious, because they want entry-level people for $7 an hour. They don't want guys who know what they're doing, who want to be managers.
Yeah.
Because number one, you're going to want to get paid what you got at your last job, which was probably way higher than that place could have afforded, which is why they went out of business in the first place, because they were overpaying people and the guys on top were pinching too much, which is typically how it goes.
Nothing new.
You know?
All right, we got to switch. One more thing before we get into the nitty-gritty here.
At one point, I went over an argument posted at Mises Daily as well, and it was about drunk driving laws and how they shouldn't be on the books, and it leads to the wrong mindset for police and all this other stuff. Now I'll go even further and say that we should repeal the drinking age. This was written by Jeff Tucker. He's actually kind of up there with Mises. He does a lot of videos for them. And basically the argument is that we have one of the most high drinking ages. It's 21. And in Europe it's
And the most drunk driving
18.
accidents, ironically, right?
I don't know if I'll go that far. I didn't research that, but
It's worth looking
very
at.
possible.
Yeah,
Usually when there's a rule, people break it.
Right,
So,
right, just to do it. Right?
well, that's just human nature.
Yeah, yeah.
Pushing
stick it to the
pushing
man,
the
right?
limits, push the envelope. You know?
So, but I mean, there are a lot of places that don't even have a drinking age, and you know, but what's the point? You know, shouldn't the family decide how old this child should be once you can drink and all this?
yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
my own. I mean, I've read up on the subject a little bit, and everything that I've read says that the government, when they created this law, they looked at a lot of the scientific data behind it, and biologically, our brains don't really stop developing until we're about 21 years old, and that's why, or that was one of the reasons that they had for making it that number.
Right.
And obviously the effects of alcohol and other things at a younger age can affect the development. But the problem is that they're looking at it from a purely scientific, standpoint, as opposed to taking into concern the social
Yeah, what's the principle
implications.
behind it? Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Well, because if it's taboo, then you're gonna do it, and you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it real good too.
Well,
you're probably gonna do it so good you wreck your truck or something.
Right. Well,
Yeah, there's the
it goes along with the prohibition. Prohibition didn't last very long. It was a constitutional amendment, and then it was repealed. And it also goes along with the war on drugs. All we have is death down there.
Well, if you take a look into history though, with the whole drinking age thing, even in the 1600s when they were first coming over here, the water was probably bad. So most of the time they're drinking mead and beer and whatever they're working on, wine or whatever, because it was because of the alcohol. It's sterilized.
Mm-hmm.
So it was typically really the only way to get guaranteed not sick.
Right. Oh, that's an interesting.
So I mean, as we learned how to purify water and realized that there was actually these little microbial creatures living in that cup of clear stuff, and as we started realizing these kind of things, that kind of thing plays a role into what he was saying.
Right.
The other side of the coin is that you have to also look at the driving age, because there are a lot of countries where the driving age is actually the same or higher than the drinking age in some cases, and the effect that has is that as people are growing up, they are aware and, in some cases used to the effect that alcohol has on their mind before they even get behind the wheel of a car.
Or have learned to drink responsibly because it was part of their upbringing.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Whereas,
They learn how to do it responsibly, whereas when
Familial.
Like the Irish families that you see. Like there's a couple places up in your neck of the woods, actually, where it's like a family place. It's like the kids are always at the bar. It's not because it's a bar, because it's like, you know, the strip club. You know what I mean? It's a family place.
Yeah.
The whole atmosphere is community.
Right.
So the whole cultural undertone brings a totally different spin on the whole thing.
And for better or
Yeah.
for worse, when it's built into, you know, sort of cultural upbringing like that, it's easier for, you know, the adults to sort of teach responsibility to the younger generation.
Right.
Especially if you're in a smaller town too, and everybody's walking.
That's true. That was good. All right. That's enough of this. Let's get into what I had you on the show for. So, Rich, we were talking about string theory in general. We're also talking about matter, antimatter, dark matter, all this other stuff. And we were talking about this about a month ago, and it made me think we've got to do this show because it really ties in with a lot of what Derek and I talk about behind the scenes of this show, actually. And that's, you know, just culture, family, this kind of thing. So in the end, I see a connection. A lot of people won't. People will say that I'm going a little bit too far, maybe.
Oh, I hear that all the time.
Good. I'm not alone. All right, so let's go for it. I mean, yeah, let's just do it. What do you want to start with?
Well, I mean, I've always been very fascinated by physics. You know, I'm definitely a right-brained person. You know, I tend to be much more artistic and stuff, but I grew up around a lot of people. My dad's a programmer. I have a lot of friends who are really into quantum physics and things like that. So I was constantly surrounded by it growing up, and I've always, you know, had that interest. And I recently picked up this book, Physics of the Impossible, which is really kind of an exciting read. It's surprisingly light reading, but it's really interesting, and it delves into a lot of.
Who's that by?
Michio Kaku. He's a professor at the City University of New York.
Nice.
And he was one of the co-authors of string field theory, which is one of the branches of string theory.
Is that the Bill and Ted's little telephone booths right there?
Yeah. Did
you guys get a shot of this? Did you get this?
Nice.
Yeah. The whole premise of the book is it explores a lot of topics that have been sort of presented by science fiction.
Yeah.
You know, things like force fields and teleportation and time travel and all that.
Force fields are kind of they're existent. I mean, look at the electromagnetic fields that surround the Earth and all these other things.
Yeah, well,
It's really there.
In the literal sense, fields of force, but he was
Like the
examining
auric fields that they talk about in Eastern medicine.
Yeah.
It's all there. So I mean,
he was exploring
It's not far
specifically force fields, like in the sense of, you know, like Star Trek having
that's
something that can
creating
like a
something
shield almost.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he
Well,
sort
you
of
know,
tackled a lot of
actually,
those topics.
in a different sort of way, that's exactly what the auric field is, because it's the first front that anything really comes at you, like sickness and all these things that come at you. First, it affects your spiritual region, this part, before it enters your physical self.
Yeah.
That's what they say in some Eastern traditions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
Which is why, like, dreams sometimes give you foresight, and like you'll have like a dream, like a warning about something, because the force field is feeling it first.
It's almost like somebody's talking to you from that 5th dimension or the 11th dimension.
Just a deeper part of yourself.
Can we talk about how string theory, if it were to be true, and it seems, you know, more and more progression there is.
It's very, very theoretical. You know, it's definitely far from being proven.
Right.
But, you know,
But at that level, let's say that all of the equations were to be correct. There is 11 dimensions in that, or at
that's
least
the
11.
most common thought.
Right.
Some theories I've read about have suggested as many as 26 dimensions, but 11 seems to be the common number that a lot of people agree on.
Right, at least mathematically.
Now, what are the significance? What are the
different dimensions?
Yes.
That's what I've wanted to know.
How is the leveling system put together?
It's kind of tricky.
You have to wear like a certain pair of glasses in order to see.
No.
All right, just checking.